And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at the Power Rangers deck building game. Now, I was born a little too early to get into Power Rangers. I certainly know what it was. It's certainly a phenomenon, and lots of kids love Power Rangers, and I've seen a few of the shows, but I was just too old. I thought they were silly. So I maybe am not the correct target audience here for the Power Rangers deck building game, but I don't dislike the theme. I still, every time I see the Zords, I think, Voltron. But anyhow, Power Rangers is, that the theme doesn't attract me, but deck building does. I like deck building games, and this game here from Renegade and Hasbro from Matt Hyra. And Matt Hyra is the person who designed the system for Cryptozoic, which is very, very popular. A deck building game, the DC deck builder game, they did NHL hockey, Lord of the Rings, Street Fighter. I mean, that series of not collectible card games, but deck building games is very, very popular. So I wondered, I assumed this wouldn't be the same thing. It's not. It's a different company. But I wondered if it would have a similar feel. In this game, which is a player versus player, or 1 versus 2, or 2 versus 2, you are going to be fighting each other, the Power Rangers versus some of their iconic bad guys that they have, with a deck building game. Here's how it plays. In this game, it is good guys versus bad guys, and you're going to play 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2, or 2v2, and you can see the different characters that you will pick here. They'll start, like you start as Tommy Oliver. As the game goes by, you get to turn into Mighty Morphin Green, and you start as Kimberly or turn into the Mighty Morphin Pink. And then you start as one person and then flip over to their more powerful side if you are the villain. So here I'm just showing you a 1 versus 1 here. We have Billy versus Rita. Each team has a counter here, and you're going to start with 30 life and 0 energy. You also have a starting deck. So for example, this is Billy's starting deck, which has Teamworks mostly, an attitude card, recovery, and a power coin. Rita's deck is pretty much the same thing. It just has different words on it. Like it might say, for example, Mayhem instead. On a player's turn, they're going to have 5 cards that they've drawn from a deck that they've built. Now, many of these cards are going to, when you play them, provide you with these shards. These shards are used to buy cards. There's a lineup of cards up here that are made up of different types. We have heroes, villains, locations, equipment, and maneuvers. And the cost to buy a card is at the top. You can also buy a Blade Blaster if you want to. These cost 2. You can see that they give 2 shards, and you can destroy this card to do 1 damage to the bad guy, or put a card from the grid, this is considered a grid, into the main deck discard pile. You can get rid of stuff with this Blade Blaster. Players will also have some cards set aside. So the Blue Ranger, for example, has his Zord and his signature item, and if you get enough shards, you're going to be able to buy those. And even the bad guy has their signature item that they can grab. When you play cards for their shards, or cards can also give you energy on them, you're going to put them in your discard pile. Any cards that you get will also go in your discard pile. At the end of your turn, you'll draw 5 cards, and if you run out of cards in your deck, you'll shuffle your discard pile to make a new deck. When you get cards in your hand that match the sides of your character, instead of playing them for their shards or energy, like this Power Morpher, I could play it for 7 energy, but I might instead decide to attach it because the color here, the gray, matches this side. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to match all 4 sides of Billy Cranston with the right colors. Once I attach those cards with the right colors, then I get to flip Billy Cranston. And boom, he's now Mighty Morphin Blue. Now, when you attach cards to a character, on your turn, you can basically use them, exhaust them, but they have an energy cost in them. So this one here says attach a card in your discard pile to a matching empty slot in your character. That costs me 3 energy. This one here attacks my opponent. I do 5 damage. If it's blocked, I do 2 damage. But then I discard this card, the Sword of Darkness. Here, Zordon lets me reveal the top card of my deck. If it's a hero or equipment, draw it. Otherwise, destroy it or leave it. So we have different cards here. Many times, though, they're going to be attacking your opponent. Now, they might have a way to stop it. There are cards that will stop attacks or at least block part of them. But when you take that, your opponent is going to lose damage. For example, if I buy my Power Lance, and the Power Lance, your signature item for the Blue Ranger, can be attached to any side. So maybe I would have done that instead of the Sword of Darkness. This, you can spend 4 energy to block an attack from someone else. It negates the attack. Draw a card, then I put this card in the bottom of my deck. So it's kind of a one-use thing. But it's a pretty powerful thing, and instead of attaching it to my character, I might also decide to use it for 4 shards or 4 energy. So there's a lot of use out of that card. There's also the Zord. Ooh. So this is the blue Zord. You can see it costs 7 to get this. When you get this, you're going to attach it to the Zord Bay. So there's the Zord Bay and the lair for the different bad guys and such. Whenever you get your Zord, you're going to put it into the Zord Bay in one of the spots. It doesn't really matter which one. And you'll be able to use these to exhaust these. This does 1 damage for each hero you control. Here's the thing, though. They don't automatically ready on exhaust at the end of a turn or at the beginning of your turn. You need to spend 5 energy here to do so. But once you get them all, and you can get the ones that you don't have, even if they're not in the game, then you get the Mega Zord here, which is really powerful and readies all of them and attacks each target foe. Place their attached master on top of their deck. Or the Mega Dragon Zord. So there's a lot of, that is going to take a lot of effort to get to that point. While the villain is going to be adding other masters to their lair that they'll be able to do damage with. A few other things of note. Sometimes cards will give you stun cards. They get stuck in your deck and you have to heal to get them out of your deck. You have these stun cards. The villains and heroes are bad for you if you're on the other side. In the grid, the cards that you buy, you're not going to be able to buy the ones of the opposing type. So the bad guy can't buy Zordon, and the good guys, the Rangers, can't buy the Putty Patroller. You can fight them, you can attack them, and if you do so, there's a very small thing at the bottom here that you'll get if you defeat them to get them out of the lineup. If you don't, though, at the end of the turn, you take 1 damage for each opposing one there is. So if there's 2 heroes in the grid at the end of the turn, the villain takes 2 damage. There's also location cards. When you play these, when you get it, instead of putting it in your discard pile, you put it in a place. So here, Angel Grove High School, and that for the rest of the game, when you play or battle a hero, you destroy a card in your hand or discard pile, or you get an energy. So there's just a lot of different things that are going to be going into play. Like I said, the first person who makes the opponent go down to 0 health is the winner of the game. For a game that's about Power Rangers, I thought the rules for this were a bit convoluted. There's a lot going on in this, and sorting out all the different cards and deciding where they go is a bit of work. You have to remember, hey, this card does this, and this card, because they all have the same back, because you're going to be putting them in your deck. But this is the signature item for Lord Zed. And so there's a bit of sorting out that needs to be done. And while it's not that big of a deal for me, for folks who are new to the hobby, which I imagine some people who buy this game will be, I think this could be overwhelming for them. There's also these tokens when you play in a 4-player game to keep track of whose turn it is. They're pretty handy, especially in a 3-player game, because the 1 player, so let's say the hero's the 1 player and they're fighting 2 villains, they go between every other turn. This just helps you keep track of that. The art for the game is fine. As you look at all the different art in the cards, I'm pretty happy with it. It's not stills from the TV show. It's drawn art, and if you're a fan of it, you're going to recognize a lot of the different stuff in here. Like, I don't know what all the things are myself. I don't know what the Moon Palace is, but I'm assuming if you are someone who's a fan of this show, that you would know what all these things are. And I thought it was pretty clear what everything does here. When you defeat a card, this is really small here at the bottom, but that's really my only complaint. The card quality itself is fine. Like I said, my biggest complaint is just there's so many different kinds of cards. This is a decent amount of time to set this game up. This this game's a little tough for me. Now, I will say, when I played it for the first time, if I knew it was Matt Hire who had designed it. It says it on the cover. If I hadn't, I would have known. This is not the same as his Cerberus system, the DC deck builder and stuff, but man, there's a lot of similarities in just how it feels. But it is very different. There's a complexity level here, and I still am not sure that the complexity level of this game matches the output. In fact, I'm just going to say I don't think it does. I don't think the game is bad, but wow, there's a lot of stuff going on for there being so much randomness in the game too. It's a deck builder, so you're going to buy cards that hopefully are the ones you need. They come up in the deck. You're going to buy the best ones for you, put them in your deck, you get them, you play them. So, okay, fine. There's lots of games that do that. The difference with this one is you're also attacking your opponent, which again isn't that unusual. There are many deck building games where you buy cards and attack your opponent. Star Realms is a very good example of a very streamlined version of that. But this one has your characters and you attach cards to them, and then you flip the card over, and you know, like let's say you're the Power Ranger, you're the pink Power Ranger, you flip over Kimberly, she becomes the pink Power Ranger. When that happens, you automatically get your Zord, and it's just like the TV show, Go Power Ranger, where they don't ever start fully powered. They wait till they're really being attacked before they get fully powered, which I never understand. Okay, so that's kind of cool, thematic-wise. Mechanically wise, it's a bit of a struggle, right? Like, okay, what card should I buy out there? Well, I can't buy the heroes if I'm the villain, so I'll buy these cards. I can afford them, so I'll pick them to buy. Yes, I can always buy those blaster cards. They're always available. And if I save up enough money, I'll be able to buy my weapon card. But that's a lot of money to do. So your choices are very limited at the beginning of the game. I'll buy whatever card I can afford. Or I'll buy the card that matches the color next to my character, so hopefully I can draw it and flip my character. When I do draw it, should I use it to buy another card or attach it to my character? That seems like a tough choice, but it isn't. But, and again, this is maybe I'm having a hard time getting this out to you all. I felt like there were more rules in this game than there was choices. Like, oh, this card does this, and this does this, and you can attach this, and you can bring the Zords over here, and eventually get the Megazord, which sounds awesome, but it's so much work to get to that point when it's just a lot easier just to grab cards and attack your opponent as much as you possibly can. And the cards that come off the top of the deck, if there's 3 heroes sitting out there, and I'm the hero player, I could use those heroes in my deck, but why not let them sit there and just consistently bleed my opponent every time they go? And that's an interesting idea. I just didn't find that part of the game to be fun. Like, it's my turn, I flip over, and there's 2 villains. I'm the hero card. I'm like, well, I got to fight these villains now. I don't really have anything to fight them right now, so I'm just going to take some hit points for a while. That part didn't really jive with me. And you say, Tom, it's sounding like a lot of the game doesn't jive with you. Yeah, you're right. Because this is not a smooth deck building game. I feel like deck building games need to be one of 2 types. They need to be really interesting, convoluted, and cool with a lot of different things. It's like, wow, this deck building game is something I've never seen done before, or they need to be super streamlined and fast. And this kind of falls in the middle. It has that convoluted feeling, but it doesn't give me any great strategy moments in it. It has cool moments, and again, if you're a fan of the show, I think you'll really like it. You'll be like, I turned into the Green Ranger. Yeah! I've always wanted to do that, and I got whatever the Green Ranger's weapon is, and their Zord. Because when you do turn into the Power Ranger, you automatically get your Zord. Although you could buy it earlier if you want to, but why would you? And I should also point out here, the 1 versus 2, I really dislike that method of playing. One person gets to play twice as much as the other 2 players, which isn't fun. And also, it's really easy to forget who's going when. That just did not work for me. Even 2 versus 2 is okay. As with many deck building games, this works best with 1 versus 1, which is a little weird because you're 1 Power Ranger fighting a bad guy, and that's kind of not as thematically strong. Now, I've said a lot of things about the game. I don't dislike it. It's interesting. I get the card. I'm like, I'm going to attach it. I'm going to use this. I'm going to attack you. You're going to block. There's some cool concepts here, but I think they're muddled up in the end game. I think there's just a lot going on, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do? And when it's over, I was like, wow, I played a game. I did a lot of stuff,
but I didn't feel like I made any strong choices, and it's really hard for me to go back over the course of the game and go, that's where I made a mistake. I don't know. I just played the cards as they felt like it was obvious to play them. But if you're a Power Rangers fan and you like deck building, then this was made for you. So this system, I suspect we'll see this system used in other games as time goes by, although the flipping the card over feels very much pointed towards Power Rangers. We'll have to see if this system is used in other games. The system is okay. The theme is strong. Can't complain about that. But sometimes I think theme can be too strong, which is weird because I complained about Matt Hyra's DC deck building game because the theme was too weak. Here it's stronger, much stronger in this game, and yet I think it hurts the game in that direction. I think I'd rather have less theme but a better game. But your mileage may vary. Anyway, that's the DC Saban's, that's not DC deck building game. See, now I'm getting confused with mine. Saban's Power Rangers deck building game. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.
Dice Tower Judgment, go get it if you're a Power Ranger fan and like deck building games.